It's 5 in the morning, and I'm sitting at my desk in the cool blue glow of my laptop screen, scrolling through my 401k portfolio like I do most mornings. I'm not looking for anything in particular, just checking in, making sure the usual mix of index funds and stable value options are humming along as expected. But this morning, something catches my eye. I pause, my finger hovers over the trackpad. There, buried deep in the holdings list of one of my target date funds, is a ticker symbol that makes my chest tighten. SpaceX. Not a small position either. And in that moment, everything shifts. I realized I already own a piece of the company sending rockets to Mars, and I hadn't even known it. If you're thinking about your financial future and want to explore how ordinary retirement accounts can hold extraordinary investments, please subscribe to the channel. We dive deep into stories like this all the time. The realization hits hard. Here I am, a person with what I thought was a pretty vanilla retirement account. And it turns out I've been a partial owner of one of the most ambitious space exploration companies on the planet for years without realizing it. How did this happen? Well, it's actually simpler than you might think, and it's a wake-up call that deserves deeper exploration. Most people assume their 401k is this untouchable, boring thing. A black box where your employer matches a percentage. The money vanishes into some administrative void, and decades later, you hope there's enough to retire on. But the truth is far more interesting. When you invest in broad market index funds, which is what many target date funds and employer plans default to, you're not just getting exposure to the 500 largest companies. You're getting exposure to the entire ecosystem of modern capitalism, and that includes private equity stakes held by major funds. Some of the largest mutual funds and index providers have stakes in SpaceX through venture capital partnerships and secondary market purchases. I pull up my fund prospectus, looking for clues. The document is dense, page after page of fund holdings and strategy descriptions. I scan through the list methodically, and there it is again, SpaceX, listed among the fund's alternative investments. I realize that my boring, safe, employer-selected investment vehicle has been quietly accumulating pieces of humanity's most ambitious space company. It's the kind of thing that should come with a headline, but instead it's buried in footnotes and quarterly statements that most people never actually read. I'm one of those people, apparently. This realization triggers something in me. If my 401k owns SpaceX without my conscious knowledge or approval, what else am I unknowingly invested in? I start digging. I find Tesla in there too, buried in different funds. I find emerging tech companies I've never heard of. I find pharmaceutical firms working on cutting-edge treatments. My boring retirement account is actually a time capsule of humanity's most ambitious projects, and I've been passively contributing to it through paycheck deductions without ever thinking about what that really means. If this exploration of hidden portfolio gems resonates with you, please hit the like button. Knowing what you actually own matters more than most people realize. The deeper I dig, the more I understand what's happening. Modern 401k plans, especially those with target date funds, are deliberately structured to capture broad market exposure. Fund managers know that most participants don't pay attention to the fine details. So they build these funds to be comprehensive, capturing not just the obvious blue-chip stocks, but also emerging companies, alternative investments, and stakes in private ventures. It's actually brilliant from a diversification perspective. You're spreading your retirement risk across hundreds or thousands of investments, many of which you'll never hear about until something makes the news. I think about all the other people in my company's plan. There are probably thousands of us, each with a 401k that contains a fractional stake in SpaceX. We're all part owners of Starlink satellites, of Dragon spacecraft, of the infrastructure that's going to make humanity multiplanetary. And most of us have no idea. We've accidentally become venture capitalists through the simple act of showing up to work and letting our employers deduct pre-tax contributions. It's almost absurdist when you think about it. I'm scrolling through my phone in the evenings, seeing SpaceX launches trending on social media, feeling a sense of awe and distance from the whole thing. Then I remember, I own a piece of that. We own pieces of that. This shifts something in my perspective about retirement planning entirely. I've always thought of 401k contributions as a checkbox task, something responsible people do. like flossing teeth or eating vegetables. You contribute because you're supposed to, because your employer matches, because conventional wisdom says you need to prepare for the future. But I never really connected the dots between those automatic deductions and actual ownership stakes in real companies doing real things in the world. It felt abstract and distant. Now it feels viscerally real. I start researching how this happened. It turns out that SpaceX raised several funding rounds that included investments from venture capital firms, which themselves are often held within major index funds and mutual funds. When these VC firms made stakes in SpaceX, they became part of the holdings of the funds that own them. It's ownership by ownership, a chain that connects my 401k to one of the most important companies operating today. The connection is real, legally binding, and absolutely fascinating when you actually map it out. I call my financial advisor, someone I meet with twice a year, out of a sense of obligation more than anything else. I ask her directly, how much of my 401k actually owns SpaceX? She's surprised by the question. She pulls up my accounts and starts digging through the fund holdings with me. It's not a clean percentage. SpaceX ownership is distributed across multiple funds, and those funds themselves hold varying percentages of their assets in alternative investments. But the total exposure is real. It's somewhere in the range of 2 to 3% of my total portfolio, which might sound small until you think about what that 2 to 3% represents. Ownership in a company that's literally changing how we think about space. We talk about what this means. My advisor explains that this kind of exposure is actually incredibly common in modern retirement accounts. Most people have stakes in private companies they've never heard of. They own pieces of startups, of moonshot projects, of ventures that might revolutionize entire industries, or might fail spectacularly. The difference is that they don't know about it. Their 401k is making bets on the future in their name, using their money, and most of them are completely unaware. She asks me if I want to adjust my portfolio to reduce SpaceX exposure. I pause. The answer is no. If anything, this realization makes me want to pay closer attention to what I'm invested in. I spend the next few days in a research rabbit hole. I learn about fund structure, about how alternative investments work, about the difference between direct ownership and beneficial ownership. I discover that this is one of the great democratizing aspects of modern retirement accounts. Regular people, people making ordinary salaries, people who would never have the capital or connections to directly invest in ventures like SpaceX, are nonetheless becoming owners. The system does it automatically, without asking permission, in the background. It's not a bad thing. It's actually quite elegant. Retirement accounts become vehicles for broad-based participation in humanity's most ambitious projects. But here's where the wake-up call really hits home. If I'm unknowingly invested in SpaceX, what else am I missing? What other major holdings am I unaware of? More importantly, what does this mean for how I should think about my retirement strategy going forward? I realize that I've been treating my 401k as this passive, set-it-and-forget-it thing, when in reality, it's an active vehicle for wealth accumulation and portfolio exposure. I should know what's in there. I should understand my holdings. I should be able to speak intelligently about where my money is going and what I'm betting on for my future. If you found this exploration of hidden portfolio value useful, please hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the financial systems that shape our lives. And I'd love to know, have you ever looked deeply into what your retirement account actually owns? What surprised you? Drop a comment below. I read every one, and I'd genuinely like to hear what investments are hiding in your portfolio that you didn't know about.